seated all the way. It might have gone in like that. This might have backed off a little bit. Somebody didn't tighten it down enough with their hands. So if that is in there like that, and I tighten this, you can see, right? So when I tighten this, you'll see that spoon drop. If that spoon is up, this is loose, this is gonna leak. I've got video of one of my guys in the pool, his octo's leaking all over. Swam up to him, grabbed it, put it in front of him, said, "What's wrong with this?" Tighten it down, stop leaking. It's like, oh.
Thanks, bud.
Yeah, so be aware of that. There's an O-ring on here, right in this area here, that you need to be concerned with. What maintenance do you need to do post-dive, especially in the winter? Take this, make sure this is dry, make sure it's not full of sand and mud and gook. Clean that out, all right? If you take this and as long as this is not disconnected, and you take this and just put it in some soapy water and then fresh water, you should be able to clean everything out. If you need to, just take those apart and then clean them out. We see a lot of sand, a lot of dirt, a lot of grime if it's not cleaned out. So that is something that you can do in the field, you can do once you come back. Then there's a little silicone. You'll just want to add a little bit of silicone. Another thing that you'll see quite often is chattering. If you've ever wore this mask and it's chattering on you as you take a breath, okay? Take silicone, put it around that.
The post on the bottom?
Post, okay? Put silicone around that. Just a little bit, right? Just enough to lubricate. Same thing here. You just draw a little bit of silicone right around there. What happens is with the chattering is that this gets sticky, right? So as you're trying to breathe and it's trying to push against that spring, you'll get that chatter. So as long as it's clean and lubricated, most of the time what we find is we open it up and it's just, this thing's just full of gunk. And there was a diver who I took this apart because he couldn't get his mask, and this was many years ago, he couldn't get things working, and I took this apart, and I'm not kidding, I dumped out almost a cup of sand. And he was about ready to get in the ice. I dumped out literally a handful, almost a cup of sand. I'm like, dude, really? I don't know, nobody told me how to take this thing apart. So that is that. When we put these back on, we'll want to set that right into place, right? So it sits right into there. And then we want to turn the ring. We don't want to turn this part, because when this part has sand or debris or gunk on it, what's happening to that O-ring? That O-ring is getting the crap beat out of it, and it's probably going to get twisted and come out. So we want to turn that ring. Ideally, keep your system pressurized. Take this, run it through some slightly soapy water. Dawn Just Soap or Simple Green goes a long way, just a little bit, right? And then fresh water and clean it off. Blow the air out, you should be good to go. Same thing with your mask, you can do the same exact thing there. Again, the post, chattering, anything like that, we'll see sand, dirt, grime.
Would you say, especially after every winter dive, mostly just to get the diaphragm dry, is that, do you have to do that in the summer, you know, as much, or do you still take apart your diaphragms and everything?
If you're in Lake Michigan, you probably are good to go. Just put in some soapy water and some regular fresh water. If we're in the Chicago River, or you're in some of the mud ponds, you know, the deep silt, where you're going to drag all that stuff through, I would definitely clean that up, right? In the wintertime, so I did this on purpose to see if it was going to work or not. I was in Lake Geneva, we were doing a demo in the pool before they bought all their gear. It was bitterly cold out. I took all the gear, threw it back in a Pelican case, threw it in the back of my truck. Left it there overnight. The next day we had an ice dive in Palatine. I showed up at Palatine, took that gear out of my truck, put it on, turned everything on, the mask wouldn't breathe. I took this off with the expectations that this was going to be frozen solid. I opened it up and I had a big ring of ice in there, right? This whole thing was frozen solid. I put it back together, jumped in the water, put my head under, shook it, and within about 30 seconds it thawed out and I was good to go and I dove. All right? So that just goes to tell you the ability for this stuff to be fairly resilient when we're dealing with that. So that's the maintenance on the mask. You know, do you need